So, 2 tankers damaged and their crews abandoning ship in the Gulf of Oman. But exactly what happened and why, that is still not clear. The operator of one of the ships, the Front Altair, says there was a fire on board. Both vessels damaged, apparently by explosions, near to the Strait of Hormuz, which is, of course, one of the world's busiest shipping routes. One of the vessels is under tow, the other one hasn't moved, and all crew have been rescued. Now, Iranian television has showed us this video, which is believed to be of that ship I mentioned, the Front Altair. It was carrying 23 crew. It had picked up oil in Abu Dhabi. It was heading for Taiwan. Now, interestingly, Taiwan's state oil company says it is believed to have been hit by a torpedo. The other tanker is the Kokuka Courageous. According to its manager, the ship carrying methanol suffered hull damage. It was off to Saudi Arabia, it was heading from Saudi Arabia to Singapore. The distress calls came a month after 4 tankers were attacked off the UAE coast and the port of Fujairah. And as a result, oil prices have risen more than 4% in just the past few hours. So, Iran's foreign minister, first of all, Javad Zarif, he responded on Twitter, and this is what he said. Reported attacks on Japan-related tankers occurred while Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was meeting with Ayatollah Khamenei for extensive and friendly talks. Suspicious doesn't begin to describe what likely transpired this morning. Iran's proposed regional dialogue forum is imperative. Let's take you around the world now. We've got reporters covering this one. We'll be with Kimberly Halkett at the White House shortly, also Dorsa Jabbari in Tehran. But we're starting actually at the United Nations with Mike Hanna. We heard a small soundbite from Antonio Guterres a little bit earlier. Take us through the rest of it.
Well, there's deep concern being expressed here at the Security Council of the United Nations, taking place today. A meeting on cooperation between the United Nations and the League of Arab Nations. Now, this was pre-scheduled. It was also arranged that the Secretary General would address the meeting, and he was quick to exclaim that there should not be blame apportioned before full facts are found out.
I strongly condemned any attack against civilian vessels. Facts must be established and responsibilities clarified. And if there is something the world cannot afford, is a major confrontation in the Gulf region.
Now, the meeting was called by Kuwait as part of its month of presidency of the United Nations. Another to express deep concern about the situation was the Secretary General of the League of Arab Nations.
These dangerous developments must compel the Security Council to act against those responsible to maintain the security and stability of the region. Mr. President, some parties in the region are trying to instigate fires in our region, and we must be aware of that.
Now, this particular meeting's being chaired by the Foreign Minister of Kuwait, and he, right at the start of the meeting, like so many others, expressed his deep concern about the attacks which could impact on an exceedingly tense situation in the Gulf.
Mike Hanna in the United Nations. From there, we head to Tehran. Here's Dorsa Jabbari. Now, Dorsa, a tweet from the foreign minister earlier. Has there been higher reaction than that?
Yes, Kamal, we've been hearing from Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, who is currently on his way to a security conference in Bishkek. But prior to his departure, he made a statement about his upcoming trip, about his plans to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin, but also about the security of the region, the current state that Iran finds itself in. And he reiterated Iran's position that it's under economic terrorism, but also he expressed his views about the current security situation in the region. And this is what he had to say.
Today, the issue of security has a special importance, either in the sensitive region of the Persian Gulf or Middle East and all around the world. And we have been making efforts to protect peace and security of the region. And over the last few years, practically, we have proven that we care about the security of our neighbours and all other countries.
Also, we heard reference earlier to the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe being in Iran at the time. I think Javad Zarif used the word suspicious. If nothing else, the timing is interesting.
Yes, certainly. When this attack took place, the Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif, along with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and the visiting Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe were meeting with Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in his compound in Tehran, and they were discussing various issues, but the Japanese Prime Minister came to Iran on Wednesday for a two-day visit with a very specific and clear message. That was to deliver a message from U.S. President Donald Trump to Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Now, during this meeting, the Iranian Supreme Leader very clearly said, I do not want any messages from that president. He is not worthy of even a response from me. So very stern words from the Supreme Leader. He didn't even allow the Japanese Prime Minister to express what was being brought from Donald Trump. The Iranian Supreme Leader also said that the U.S. has been pressuring Iran into negotiations and that they are not interested after the way the Americans have behaved, withdrawing from a nuclear agreement that took years to negotiate. And given their behavior in the past, the Iranians have no trust and no interest in pursuing any further dialogue with the Americans.
And from Dorsa, Jabbari in Tehran, we go to Washington. Here is our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett. Can you pick up from there, Kimberly, even if there hasn't been any specific reaction from the Americans, the context of the U.S. in the Gulf right now?
Yeah, we have had a statement from the press secretary, Sarah Sanders. She did acknowledge that the White House, and specifically President Trump, is aware of the reports of attacks on ships in the Gulf of Oman. The U.S. government is providing assistance and will continue to assess the situation. That's the statement we got out of the press secretary. In terms of that assistance, Kamal, what does it look like? Well, we know, according to defense officials, that the United States has provided Navy aircraft that is patrolling the area. We also know that a guided missile destroyer responded to the incident. Now, the United States has not ruled out that these ships were either hit by an underwater mine, we are told, according to defense officials, or attacked by a projectile. But what this is being viewed at in terms of the wider reaction in Washington, we're starting to see things percolating on Capitol Hill among members of Congress, is, again, suspicious timing, viewing this as far more aggressive than the attacks on the 4 commercial ships about roughly 1 month ago. So not only is this in terms of the more aggressive nature is there concern in Washington, but also, again, that timing, given the fact that the Japanese leader Shinzo Abe, a friend of Donald Trump, in Tehran trying to de-escalate tensions between the United States and Iran, present when this occurred. In fact, this is already causing some members of Congress and Capitol Hill to start pointing the fingers at Iran. We've had this statement coming out of the Senate. In fact, Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader there, saying, we don't know who is responsible for these latest attacks, but it's not unreasonable to suspect an Iranian hand in them. So already finger pointing even before there are conclusive facts.
Kimberly Halkett at the White House, thank you.